Most people think their biggest problem is discipline. They believe the reason they feel stuck, distracted, inconsistent is because they are not trying hard enough. So they push themselves harder, more goals, more plans, more pressure. But there is a quiet possibility most people never consider. What if the real problem is not your effort, but the system of beliefs you inherited about how life is supposed to work? Long before you were old enough to question anything, certain ideas were already placed on your shoulders. What success looks like, what a meaningful life should be, what kind of person you are supposed to become. You didn't design these ideas. You simply carried them. And for a long time, carrying them feels normal. Even admirable. You study what you're told to study. You pursue what you're told is respectable. You measure yourself using standards that were given to you by family, school, culture, or society. From the outside, everything can look perfectly fine. You are responsible, productive, disciplined. But somewhere in the background, something feels slightly off. A quiet tension, the strange feeling that you are working very hard, yet moving in a direction you never consciously chose. This is a problem most productivity advice never talks about, because the question is uncomfortable. Before optimizing your habits, before improving your focus, there is a deeper question that almost no one asks. Are you building your life, or are you simply carrying someone else's blueprint through it? The strange thing about living inside someone else's blueprint is that it rarely feels wrong at first. In fact, it often feels responsible. You wake up early. You follow the plan. You try to be productive. You make schedules. You open 10 browser tabs. You start learning something new. For a moment, everything feels promising. But by the middle of the week, the energy fades. The plan slowly collapses. The focus disappears. And a quiet frustration takes its place. So you assume the problem must be discipline. You tell yourself you need stronger willpower, better time management, more motivation. But behavioral science suggests something different. Human beings are not built to sustain effort toward goals that feel internally disconnected from them. When your actions are aligned with something meaningful to you, effort feels heavy, but natural. When they are not, the mind begins to resist. You procrastinate. You distract yourself. You lose momentum. Not because you are lazy, but because somewhere deep inside, your brain senses a mismatch. Like following a map that technically leads somewhere, but not somewhere you actually want to go. And the more you try to force yourself forward, the heavier the journey begins to feel. This is why so many people spend years chasing productivity systems without ever addressing the real issue. They are optimizing effort without ever questioning the direction. At some point, if a person pays close enough attention to that quiet resistance, a different question begins to appear. Not how do I push harder, but something more uncomfortable. Why does this direction feel so heavy? A philosopher once described this moment using a simple image. He said the human spirit changes shape 3 times during life. First, it becomes the camel. The camel kneels and says, "Load me. Give me responsibilities. Give me expectations. Give me duties." The camel carries them all without complaint. In fact, the camel often feels proud of the weight it carries, because endurance looks like strength. And from the outside, the camel can look impressive, reliable, hardworking, disciplined. But eventually the camel reaches a desert, quiet place where something inside begins to question the load. And there, the camel transforms into the lion. The lion does something the camel never dared to do. It says no. No to expectations that were never chosen. No to beliefs that no longer make sense. No to roles that feel borrowed. The lion fights with the philosopher, called the great dragon. The dragon that says, you must follow this path. You must value these things. You must live this kind of life. And the lion answers with a different voice, I will. But the realization does not end there, because destroying the old map does not automatically give you a new one. After the line rejects the old map, something unexpected happens. Freedom appears, but so does confusion, because removing unexpected happens. Freedom appears, but so does confusion. System is easy compared to building a new one, and this is where many people get stuck. They escape expectations, but they never create direction. They reject structure, but they never design one that fits them. So their energy becomes scattered, busy, but not focused, active, but not progressing. The philosopher described a final transformation that solves this. Problem. The child. The child does something neither the camel nor the lion can do. It creates, not from obedience, not from rebellion. But from its own nature. In practical life, this transformation does not require dramatic life change. It begins with a very small system. First, remove unnecessary weight. Look at your routines, commitments, and goals. Then quietly ask yourself one question. If no one expected this from me, would I still choose it? Anything that repeatedly drains your energy without meaning probably belongs to someone else's map. Second, build a focus loop. Instead of chasing 10 different improvements, choose one direction that genuinely interests you. Then create a simple, daily action connected to it. Not something heroic, just something repeatable. 30 minutes of learning, writing a few pages, building a small project. Consistency matters more than intensity. Third, protect your mental environment. Most productivity failures are not failures of discipline. They are failures of environment. Design. Too many distractions, too many inputs, too many voices telling you what success should look like. So simplify the environment. Fewer notifications, fewer tabs, fewer expectations. The goal is not to become a different person overnight. The goal is to slowly build a system where your actions and your nature move in the same direction. When a person lives inside borrowed expectations, productivity always feels fragile. Some days you feel motivated. Some days you don't. Some weeks everything works. Then suddenly the system collapses again. So you rebuild the plan. You download another productivity method. You try a different routine, but the cycle quietly repeats. Not because you are incapable of discipline, but because discipline cannot permanently support a culture incapable of discipline. Direction that does not belong to you. Something interesting happens when your system begins to align with who you actually are becoming. The work does not become easier, but the resistance becomes smaller. You no longer spend half your energy negotiating with yourself. You sit down. You begin. The progress is not dramatic. Some days you only move a little, but the movement becomes steady, and over months, something deeper appears. Clarity. You start understanding your own patterns, your real interests, the kind of work that gives energy instead of draining it. And slowly, the feeling of forcing life forward begins to disappear. This is the quiet power of alignment. Intensity burns quickly, but alignment compounds. Most people never question the load they carry. They wake up, follow the script, move from one expectation to the next. And eventually, the routine becomes their identity. Some people rebel against the script. They reject the expectations. They criticize the system, but rejection alone does not create direction. It only creates empty space. The difficult step comes after that. Building something that actually belongs to you. Not a life designed by pressure, not a life defined by reaction, but a life shaped slowly by conscious choice. That process is quiet. There are no dramatic announcements, no sudden transformations. Just small decisions repeated over time, removing what no longer fits, keeping what truly matters, and gradually building a system that reflects the person you are becoming. You don't need to reinvent yourself overnight. You just need to stop carrying answers that were never truly yours. If this idea resonates with you, comment system. And if you want to keep refining the small systems that quietly shape your life. Subscribe. Not because this channel will change your life in one video. But because meaningful change rarely happens that way.